this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is a long overdue piece of work, but there's certain pieces of work on certain bonsai trees you don't do at a lot of times of year. I'm going to do some work on my Japanese white pine. This is endearingly known as my birthday tree, because literally when I said I was going to Windy Bank to hopefully get a nice tree for my birthday, Gail donated quite a large sum of money to allow me to get this white pine. So, and I've been grateful ever since, because it's got the potential to be a really nice bonsai, but it's not yet. It's just a tree in a pot. However, we're going to do some work on it. A lot of it is tedious and we'll get speeded up with some music. But it's the basic principles that we'll stop and chat about. So first of all, let's have a look at the tree. Whoops. Take the camera down and swing it round. And this is the tree. Now the first thing I'll show you is the first job, which you may or may not be able to see. This tree is covered in grayscale. Badly covered in grayscale. Now that's got to come off. Now it's been sprayed twice with a systemic, but unfortunately systemics on pines don't work as well as they do on deciduous trees, because the pine needles don't soak much in, so it doesn't really get into the tree. So what I'm going to do to get rid of them, I've got some rubbing alcohol that I've had so long the label's worn off, literally. I think I may have scraped that off because it had a brand name on it once upon a time. So I've got a little bit of 70% rubbing alcohol in here. I've got some cotton wool buds with another supply upstairs if necessary. And the idea is we get the cotton wool buds and we literally wipe them off. So this is physical removal. And at the same time it should kill any eggs or anything left behind. Now this is an incredibly tedious job that's got to be done methodically across the whole tree. Yeah? So you can see the process right up to the buds, into the needles, yeah, all around the little twigs. It's got to be done over the whole tree. Now, as I've said, I'm pretty confident these are all dead. The task is compounded by the fact that the sheaths on the new needles are still there. They haven't necessarily dropped. They're not connected, they're just sitting in the way, basically. But yeah, so as you can imagine, this particular job is going to take a very long time. And I'm sure you don't want to sit there watching me do it, but I just wanted to show the principle. These grayscale only seem to affect pines. I haven't had them on any other types of trees. I've only ever had them on pines. There were a few on my Scots pine that was right next to this one, but nothing like this one. This one is absolutely smothered, and they've got to go. They've got to go. Now I'm going to end up doing this to branches that I'm going to cut off in a minute, but I haven't made the decision on what branches are going to be cut off. Yeah, but there is some major branch removal coming up. So this is the initial branch selection phase. I have taken a few off when I first got it, but not many. I decided to see where the growth would be and then go from there. Because the thing is, you don't want to be too hasty with branch removal. You can't stick them back on. Once you decide the branch is coming off, you need a good reason. You need to have thought it through. And you need to justify it to yourself. And in my case, to viewers, because I'm running a YouTube channel. The thing is with bonsai, there is no one way. You know, there's if you give a tree, if you could possibly get half a dozen identical trees, which you can't, but if you could, then if you gave them to half a dozen bonsai people, and ask them to style it, you come back with 6 entirely different trees. They'd all have their own ideas as to what they kept, what they cut off. And certainly in the case of pines, you've got, are you going to cut the branch right off back to the trunk, or are you going to turn it into a gin? And perhaps have some deadwood. It all looks good on pines. So all these decisions have got to be made. But first I want to go over the tree and get rid of these scale. So I'm going to do that off camera. I'll come back when we've descaled the tree. It's going to take me a while. Could be a couple of coffees job. And it's tedious, but it's got to be done. I'll be back. Okay, I've done the bottom part of the tree and I've stopped because an amount of what's left is going to be cut off, and it seems daft wasting time getting scale off things I'm just going to remove. So I've stopped. So the next thing, the things we've got left to do, we've got branch selection, yeah? Then we've got to remove old needles, yeah? And possibly pluck some of the new ones so that we declutter the tree, so that all the individual little branches can be wired. Yeah, they can't wire them with loads of needles on them. And the idea of doing it at this time of year is the growing has virtually finished, and by taking needles off, old needles specifically, and plucking some of the newer ones, not cutting, plucking, it should stimulate some back budding. Now, we won't see those grow until next year, but they will form. So we should get some back budding. There's a fair bit of strength in this tree. It's been fed and watered well this year. It's been in full sun. Despite being in full sun, we've still got some pretty long needles here. And we have lots of buds, clusters at the apex of a lot of these branches. So it's a healthy tree. So what I do to it won't have too much of a dramatic effect on it. So still got to decide on the front. Now, if we have this as the front, we've got some nice movement in the trunk. We've got a graft, obviously, with some wire marks. Over time, the wire marks will fade and just be part of the gnarly bark. But we have the end of the graft where the black pine trunk stops and the white pine trunk starts. It would be very nice to put that behind a branch. And that branch needs to be that one. So I would suggest that is our first branch. If that's the first branch, this is going to be the second branch. Both of those can be brought down. That makes the tree look more mature. You know, I've missed some of the scale down here as well. Can't get them all, but it'll be a lot easier to get at them once the needles are removed. And as I said, I was taking stuff off. Now straight away, if we're going to keep this here as our second branch, we've effectively got handlebars, but that'll have to be disguised. Now, to look good, bonsai branches shouldn't have branches right next to the trunk, so that needs to come off. Now over here I don't have loads and loads of tools. I've got a large angled branch cutter with nice long handles, nice stainless steel, that one, that's a good tool. I've got a knob cutter, which is not a large one, it's a small one, but it does allow branches that are taken back to the trunk, it does allow them to be tidied up. And because we're working on a pine, we may well do some gin. And if we're going to do that, I've got a sharp knife to split the bark, and I haven't got proper gin pliers, but I have got pliers. And I have got two types, and between them they will peel bark off. Right, so if we're going to keep this as our first branch, which makes sense, this is a lousy branch. That's no good as a first branch. It's already been damaged. So that's got to come off. And then, as I said, we decide, is it going to be a gin? Can we start the tree with a gin? Possibly a little shari down from there as well. Might look quite nice. We won't worry about sharis or anything like that now, but I want that branch off. But all I'm going to take off, oh, it can go in the tray, can't it, are the needle branches. I'm not going to take the rest off, simply because if it's going to be a gin, I'm not doing the gins now, I will do them later as a separate exercise, then obviously they need to taper. They don't want to come to an abrupt end. They've got to look as though they've died back. So we've now got our first branch. That can be lowered down with the needles pulled. All of these ends can be turned up and that can become quite a nice pad. So that's our first one. This will therefore be our second one. We've still got to decide what we're going to do up here yet. That's quite a big decision. Now again, if we're going to keep that branch, this little thing here needs to come off because it's far too close to the trunk. It'll just spoil the outline. So we take that off. I didn't take this one off, but I will now. We're decluttering, basically. And the idea will be, we open up the tree, we let a lot more light in. And most of the reason the light's not getting in is here. This just doesn't work. It would work if it was an apex, but that means chopping off that much of the tree. I'm not prepared to do that. There's too much good here. So the trunk will come round. I suspect when I repot this I will tilt it. I will go over a bit. But obviously that's not now. Right, so if that's going to be our next branch, then the one immediately above it, first branch, second branch, it's not a very strong branch, but it's got some good shape to it. It's got a lot of scales still left on it. They were underneath, I missed them. Then this branch has got to go because it's on an inward curve, yeah, and it's not a very strong branch, so that one's got to come off. I'm going to take that one right off at the base, so that can come off there. We'll just and then we use the knob cutter just to eat into there a bit so that the bark will curl over and make a nice seal. Just niggle at it, make it nice and smooth. Right, so we've got gin, first branch, second branch, back branch. Happy with that. Do we want two back branches? Why not? It'll give us some depth. Is this any good? The problem we've got is if we don't keep this branch, we're going to have a hell of a gap up this side of the trunk. So I think we're going to have to keep this and make that our next branch up, despite it being on an inside curve. There's not a lot I can do, you can only work with the branches you've got. So we'll keep that one, take that niggly little bit off there. Right, now we've got this one. You can't see the problem here, I will try and show you. It's absolutely huge, this branch. It can't stay like that. I can't take it right off because it would leave a huge gap. There's a nice branch there on the back of the trunk as well as that one, so we keep that. We're going to keep this because we've got not much choice, or we will have a huge gap here, which I don't want. And we've got to decide what we're going to do. So if this is going to be the trunk heading up to the apex, well, if it's not that one, it's got to be this one, and that's all hanging out one side then. So it's got to be that one. So that's going to be the apex. There's plenty of growth up there, plenty of branch choices, plenty of scale. So what are we going to do with this one then? It's quite a thick branch, but we can take it back so that it becomes more in line. You have to bear in mind it would still be nice to have our triangular shape, so the bottom branches preferably need to be wider than what the top will be. This just keeps shouting at me as a problem. So for it to work, it's going to need a central point to grow, that will be that, and some side bits. So that's coming off there for now, and then we'll have a look. We'll see what it looks like without it. It's a large piece of tree. So what have we got now then? We've got this. And we've got this. This and this, with some of this, will make a nice pad. Then we've got a branch, we've got a piece coming out here. We can't keep that, it comes off this branch right at the base of the trunk, so that's going to have to go. So that can go. That's thinned out that area quite a bit. I'm not happy with this. I think we're going to let that go. So now we've got this to make our pad from. This is still too long. It's too much, so we'll go back to there. We'll make our pad out of what's left. Yeah, that'll be okay. Keeping our shape. Don't forget these ends will flick up once I've got rid of the old needles. So we're getting there. Now we've still got the top to work out. It's far too much here. Bear in mind this will come down, this won't be there. That's coming down. Don't think we can work with that. That's just going to clutter that gap, so that can go. I'll tidy up these ends later. Now I think we can actually get rid of, we'd leave that as quite a small pad, but it'll grow. Take rid of this, get rid of this huge cluster here. Away you go. That's opened up that section, and when we spread these out and flick them up, it'll be a small but a workable pad in the light and allowing light to get down through. Right, that's coming up here now. That branch points downwards, so that can come off. We've got to make an apex here now, so we need both hands. And we also have to have a continuation. Well, I would say that's the continuation. So our trunk will go round and come back on itself, so this will grow on taller. And we've got a couple of these will drop down a bit, so these have got to come down into the gap. Those will do that job quite nicely. This, with all the sheaths removed and a bit of decluttering, will become the apex. So that's going to be the apex. So what's left then? This will come out here, give us some depth and a nice little pad. And the next one up, I think that will become a back branch. This will come round and sit underneath the apex. So the apex is the only thing that needs a bit of decluttering here. It's this bit here that's making it untidy. Just knock that out. There's just too much up here. It's just too much clutter. We need less clutter. And let the light in. Yeah. Right, so that's our initial branch selection. Now it doesn't look right at the moment because obviously the wire's not on. So that bit I've filmed in its entirety. The next bit that I'm going to do is the needles. So what we've got to do is find old needles. Now on a relatively weak branch like this, I'm not going to do too much, but there are some bits here. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. It's all sort of glued together. In fact, that piece is going to have to come off. I don't know what's wrong with it, but it's just wrong. So we'll take that one off. That's better. So if we flick up these ends, we've got a nice little pad there. Now over here, that one needs to come off. It's pointing downwards. There we go. And then it's just a matter of old needles. So, and the idea, part of the idea of doing this is to declutter the branches. So even some of the new needles can come off, and hopefully where they get pulled we should get some back budding. No guarantees, but we should get some. So, you know, again, it's a matter of looking for the old ones, just thinning them down. That way, when we come to wire, we haven't got to go round all the needles because they're not there anymore. The idea being that, you know, the branch is clear right up to the end, and then we can get our wire on there nicely, and hopefully we will get some back budding in some of these areas. This is like here, these are the old needles here. They pull off very easily, but you have to wait for this sort of time of year really. You won't get back buds on a white pine if you muck about in the spring. You know, it's, I mean, it's classic sort of with Scots pines or something like that to do candle pinching. If you do that on these, they often don't recover very well. So, you know, it's probably better not to any great extent anyway. Apart from some basic shaping, possibly. And you can see what I'm doing. I'm gradually clearing the way for the wire so that the wire can come down to the tips. Not going to do any more with that, that's a bit weak. This one's nice and strong. Just take these old needles off, and then depending on the strength of the branch, i.e. the number of new needles, you may take some of those off as well. But if it's not a strong branch, then just the old ones come off. So that's that. This one, too weak to do anything with. Up here, just a little bit, not much. And over here we've got some nice old ones to take off here. And that will allow me to get the wiring around those branches and flick the ends up nicely to shape them ready for next year when they come back into growth. See, now this is quite a strong branch here, so we can take some of the newer needles off as well as the older ones. There we go. Right, so you get the idea. Tedious yet again, so I'll cut off, finish the rest of the needle pulling that I want to do. I will then go round again, now that we've got rid of the branches we don't want, and get rid of some more scale. So I'll do all that off camera and we'll come back when I've finished that section. Okay, that's most of the scale removed. There's no way I'll get every single one, but obviously by taking the needles off, just leaving the pads on the end of each little twig, exposed an awful lot of more bits of branches that I hadn't done before. So there was quite a lot of work to do there. Now the tree looks quite bare now, but the idea is the light will get in now, and the light, along with the needle plucking, should trigger back budding, and we should get a better ramification into next year. I won't see too much of it next year, this year rather, just hopefully the buds for me. Major decision really, this bit here I'm not sure serves a purpose anymore now that, what about if that was a gin? So that the trunk line came up round here and ended up with a nice gin. perhaps with a little shari coming down here. Can only go this side. Obviously you've got to leave the live vein for this branch here, which is the apex in effect. Would that work? To bear in mind, this will be round here, this will be lower down. I haven't got enough hands. Need an assistant. Would that work better as a gin? I mean, some of the apex can be brought down. It's not, you know, it's not like this be totally exposed. We've got to think of our triangle all the time. You know, we've got our two branches here to start us off with the gin. They'll come down. There's still quite a bit of scale on that branch, so I'm never going to get it all. But we will give it another go. That will be there. This bit will come down a bit. So there, our apex will cluster up together a bit better. There's quite a lot of budding on these branches in the apex, so we've got our built-in ramification already without back budding in this area, because each shoot's got 2 or 3 buds. So we'll have to do bud selection once they start to move next year, but would that be better gone? Can only do it once. That brings our trunk round here and on up, and then this will become the leader effectively to take it on up even further. I mean, this tree could end up another 6 inches taller, or even a foot as the years go by. That's what it would look like with that completely removed, because there's a huge knot here. See, if I leave this as a gin, then I can carve this knot off and remove it completely. And then we'd actually have quite a nice trunk line there. Bring that over here to sit behind the gin. Yeah, I think it's coming off. Bit drastic, but I'm not happy with it there, and you know, I've got to live with this tree. And at the moment it gets watered every single day, and I've got to look at it every single day. And if I'm not happy with a bit of it, that's going to happen every single day. When I look at it, I'm going to think, that would be better off. And then the idea with the gins is to get the bark off. Now, an ordinary pair of pliers will do this job. Doesn't have to be a special pair of gin pliers. I've also got a Dremel with carving tools, you know, so I'm just doing this one just so that there's going to be people watching who don't know what a gin is. It represents, on a bonsai, a branch that's broken off in the wind or that's died back. Yeah, so it's lost the branch for whatever reason. And obviously as a branch is lost, the bark comes off. It does eventually become a piece of dead wood. Now that's what you're trying to represent, is that piece of dead wood. I don't know how much of that I'd be able to take off with the pliers. Some of it. It is quite a large knotty area that's not healthy either, come to think of it. There's actually a bit of rot in there. Ouch. But anyway, you get the idea. So you take the bark off, and then you can what a lot of people do to make it look more natural. God, sap that's in this area is incredible. So crush the end, and then get hold of bits of that and tear it back. I can get hold of a bit and then just tear it back. and it makes it look more natural. See, you don't get these dug out bits. Anyway, that's not the job for today. I just wanted to get that impression, because it's done now. Once the branch is off, you can't stick it back on. So that will become a gin. And we've got some lime sulphur, which stinks to high heaven. You certainly don't mess with that indoors. That basically bleaches the wood. It also hardens it and stops it rotting. So you know, once you've taken the bark off, that's a necessity really. That's what we need to get in there. Dig it out. That's better. Solid sap, this area, so messing up all my tools. We can have that as a little hollow, little place for an owl to nest. We'll get a very small owl. You get the general idea. And then, as I said, we can tear the bark at times, just grab a bit and tear it. If we've got the strength and the right tool. And we get the start of our shari coming down there. I've got so much sap on the tools now, they're not working as well as they should. But anyway, a little bit of carving around here, possibly hollow that out, and then take some of this bark off and tail it off on the underside of the branch. So that's that one. And then we've got the same sort of thing to do down here with this one. It's just a matter of you twist it. You have to go careful not to take the whole branch off, but just twist it and the bark will loosen, and then you can take the bark off. So I think there are proper gin pliers to do this. I've never had any. I've never owned gin pliers. You're going to come off, aren't you? Yeah, that's not going to stay there. It's rotten. So it's going to have to come off. There we go. But you get the general idea, just peeling the bark off. Excuse that noise, that's the acorns coming off of next door's tree. If any ever come through the roof, they will get the bill. Unfortunately, it's one of those listed trees, so even though it hangs over my property, technically I'm entitled to cut any overhangs off, but not on that tree because it's listed. It's got a preservation order on it, so I can't touch it, and nor can the people whose garden it's in. So it's something that has to be lived with, unfortunately. There we go, that tore back nicely, so there's a nice gouge out of the underside there. You have to go careful with the bits you tear, because sometimes if you tear too much, it's too little left. And the other thing is, sometimes you can wind it back if you've got a small pair of pliers, twist it like that, and turn it, and it will come back like that. Anyway, I'm not going to do any more with that. That's that one done. And that is our basic branch selection. And the next job is the job I hate more than anything with bonsai, is wiring. Now today, I'm going to take a big break now, because I've been at this quite a while. Gone past my lunchtime. So I'm going to get some lunch, get this pine sap off of my fingers, and then the wiring that I will do today, it's tedious watching somebody wire, so I'm not going to film it. I'm going to do the shaping. So I'm going to put the thicker wire on to set the branches in the position I want them, leaving the finer wiring to twist all the ends up to get a nice shaped pad for another time. Possibly tomorrow, but it won't be today. I'll have had enough. If the trouble is with wiring, I don't like doing it. And if I do it when I'm tired and I've had enough, I'll make a right pig's ear of it, so we don't bother. We do it when we're fresh and we're in the mood. That might be in a week's time. But I will get the major wire on, and then we'll come back to end the video to see what the final shape actually looks like. So again, I'll be back. Okay, that's a basic outline wiring. I obviously haven't done the fine twigs. There's only so much wiring I can do before I get very fed up very quickly. That was this point. So we stopped. So we pulled this branch down. When I do the little twigs and everything, that will form a nice pad there. And with this one pulled in fact that one can come off. I don't want the gin hidden. Fine tuning, that's better, so you can see the gin over the top. And brought this branch down as well, and with the extra light from thinning everything out, that should pull on nicely. This one here I've pulled down, it's twin, there's two elements to it, and when the little twigs are pushed into their shape, not happy with this bit, but there's not much I can do about it. The tree would be wrong without something here, and a gin between there and there would, I don't think it would work. So this will need work. Needs to come round this way a bit, so I'll have to encourage growth on this side and discourage growth going the other way. Gradually, you know, the back budding and everything, I'll be able to pull that round. I'd like this pad to slightly mask the trunk. I'm one of those, I don't like to be able to see the trunk all the way up. To me, that's not natural. If you look at any tree in the wild, that doesn't happen. There'll always be at least one branch going across the trunk. Well, that's my choice. That will also hide the branch itself. Once this pad expands and sits there, it'll also hide that branch because it's a bit thick. It's too far up to be that thick. So we're okay here. We've got a nice back branch here. I'll put some curves into that to get a nice shape to it. Oh, rain. A strange occurrence. Most welcome. Yeah. What's that? 10 seconds of rain? What's that going to do? Anyway, trunk comes round here, and this is the new lead. Yeah? So everything else is subordinate to it, and will make a nice apex. I can play with it. Do all sorts of things with that. But we've got a reasonable pad there. Got some nice negative space here, and obviously here, and even here. Yeah? So I'm okay with that as an initial shaping. At least we've got something that looks a bit more like a bonsai. If we get the back budding that I'm hoping for, all of these pads will virtually double up in thickness for next year. And again, next year we can feed and water well, push the strength into everything that's there. This will still get fed right through into late autumn. Yeah? And that will help encourage the back budding as well. So there we go, long job. What's the time now? Oh God. It's nearly 2:30 and I haven't had lunch yet. We probably won't bother now, it will spoil me tea. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed that. It's an initial shaping. And Gail, I hope you like where this tree's heading. It's not there, you know, this isn't a proper bonsai yet, it's just initial styling. So we've got some work to do next year to thicken up the pads and trim off any bits that stick out in the wrong places, but I can work with that structure now. I'm okay with that. And we've covered up the graft with this pad, that's good. And by lowering it, I think we've actually achieved something reasonable. And although we haven't got a triangle as such, if I can get this to grow out a bit, then we will have our overall dome shape. So it's not essential with a pine, but it's something to work to, you know. And if something sticks out odd and it looks good, well then that's how it is. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed at least some of that, and I'll see you next time, whenever that is. But there won't be any filming on this for some considerable time now. When I do the little twigs, which is all, you know, very fine wire, that doesn't exert me to any great extent. I won't film doing it because again it's tedious, but perhaps we'll have a look at it when I've fine-tuned it and turned all these ends up so that they all point upwards. So the pads look so much nicer once you do that. You know, sort of along those lines. Yeah. So we'll get that done sometime down the line. Now, as far as this tree's concerned, back out in full sun, what sun there is in the garden, and water and feed. Put some energy back into it, having taken probably at least half of its foliage off. You have to bear in mind, you know, how much foliage we actually took off, including some large branches. So there we go, that's it for today. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.